So hello and welcome to another video by Adrian David from Pure Electric. In this video I'm going to be talking apprentices through the Workplace Logbook, which effectively is kind of like a bit like a work diary where you talk about some jobs that you've done, and you do it in such a way that whoever reads this can then ascertain your level of competency. I quite like the idea of this. I've had a look through it. For me, being able to talk reflectively about what you do at work not only reinforces what you've learnt that day, but it also helps you sound like an electrician, and that can only be a good thing. So when you go to talk to customers or talk to prospective clients, if you go out on your own, that level of confidence in your voice about what you're talking about and sounding like you know what you're talking about is going to take you places. Okay, so for me, it's essential that apprentices learn how to do this properly and take charge of this, take control of it, and make this happen. A lot of apprentices look at the Workplace Logbook and see it as a necessary evil. But let's be honest, in your career as an electrician, you are going to have to take control of things, take responsibility for stuff, and be able to fill out paperwork competently and correctly. And this is just a gentle way of bringing you up to that level. So in my opinion, and probably the opinion of a lot of people, being able to do this properly is the difference between somebody who's an apprentice and somebody who is a qualified electrician and can talk the talk. Not just walk the walk, but talk the talk as well. There's lots of people out there that can bang in 2.5 rings, radials, whatever, all day long. But when you talk to them, yeah, mate, this is how we do it, smash it in, lash that over there. That's not how we want to be talking. We want to sound like we know what we're talking about. We want to sound professional. We need to bring professionalism back into the game. So for me, this is one of the reasons why I'm going to help apprentices fill out this Workplace Logbook. I've never done one myself. I haven't actually done the AM2, which I'm looking to do myself to get that level of qualification. So I'm filling out this Workplace Logbook for myself. Now, while I do this video, obviously I'm not going to show you how I'm filling it out. I'm not going to allow you to just copy what I've put to get you through. That's not what this is about. The reason I'm doing this is to enable people that want to be the best, who want to sound like they know what they're talking about, get their technical knowledge that they can do with their hands and turn that into words and enable them to build up vocabulary. Now, one of the things that we're trying where I work is that we've brought back the kind of work diary, so to speak. So we've got our apprentices' diaries, which they now fill out on a daily basis. And then when they come into the college, we will talk through that. We will spend some time in the day talking through those diaries. And so I'll say such and such, what did you do this week? And they'll turn to their pages and they'll talk about what they've done. And I'll say, fantastic, that's great. Okay, well, what were the health and safety considerations for that? And we'll talk about that. Perfect. Well, you were demonstrating this, you were demonstrating that. And all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, I was. And then they reflect on those lessons and they build up the level of competency required to be able to fill out this logbook. So I've already got first year apprentices that started in September 2020, and they are already building up the technical ability to talk about what they've done at work. They're not filling out the Workplace Logbook already, but what they're doing is they're building up the technical ability to talk about what the level that is needed for the logbook. And the way they're doing that is by keeping a worksite diary. So for instance, I had a guy the other day who had been installing some trunking, and when he wrote beautifully. He explained that this is what I did, this is why I did it, this is how I kept my angle straight, I used a set square, I used a level, and he was describing everything absolutely perfectly. I had another apprentice that again technically talked about what he did at the on that day, and at the end of it he finished beautifully with we then tidied up the site and kept it safe and clean, because we wanted to look professional and keep the client happy. I mean, that's brilliant. That's everything that we're talking about. So I thought I'd put together this video or series of videos to enable other apprentices to achieve that as well. Okay, so that's what this video is all about. I'll briefly talk through this logbook. I won't go into too much detail on the first pass. I'll go through it quickly, just sort of skim over each section, and then I'll do a series of videos on each bit or each time I update something. Okay, so this will be the first in a series of videos. Okay, so obviously this is the first page. From what I hear, this may not be available anymore. You can still buy it on Amazon, but apparently not enough people started buying this. I don't know how true that is, but it could also be to do with the fact that a lot of colleges are now going to online based logbooks, which I can see the benefits for. Personally, I'm the type of person that I like to have pages. I like to have it in front of me. I like to flick through, highlight bits, have pages that aren't in order next to each other so I can cross-reference things as I go. I can't see that being easily achievable on a laptop, even with 2 screens. Sometimes I have 3 or 4 pages, 5 pages, 6 pages, all lined up in a row, and I'm cross-referencing between all of them. I can't see that being easily achievable on a digital copy. So for me, I would always want this. So as long as it's able to be printed off, that's great, that's fantastic. Okay, so obviously this is the front cover. Usually I keep this in a ring folder, but obviously it doesn't make it easy to turn the pages over. I've printed this off as well in a paper form, so that I'm going to fill it out, and then when I'm happy with the level of content, you know, because I don't always get what I want out in the first go. I have to change it and edit it, so I'm going to, you know, continually develop that over a period of time until I get to a point where I'm happy that that is the complete package. So don't try and do this in one go. You need to build up to it. And let's face it, you've got 3 years to do it in. If you start the qualification now in September and you're starting to build on this already, by the end of the 3 years you will be fully there. And it's worth pointing out as well, guys, that with this 5357 qualification, they've changed the AM2 now. You can't be entered into the AM2 unless your portfolio is finished and signed off. In the old days, people would get put into the AM2 when their portfolio wasn't finished. So in actual fact, there's a lot of people in the world, or in the UK should I say, that aren't technically qualified because they never completed the portfolio, such as myself. So this is why I'm doing it now. And if I'm honest with you, it wasn't entirely my fault. The college let me down. I only found out about this a couple of years ago because of SparkSafe and finding out that way, but there you go. That's happened in the past. Now I need to get this on and get it done. And I'm taking responsibility for that. Okay. So on the front page, basically name, city and guilds enrolment number, which this will be given to you when you enroll with a centre, a training provider. You then got the centre name, centre number, trainer, date registered with city and guilds. Okay. Then you sign it, so name, sign, date, and then your assessor will sign and date it, and so will the IQA. And the IQA stands for Internal Quality Assurance. So basically that just makes sure that the college that you're with are filling the paperwork out correctly. Okay, and then name, date, signed at the bottom. So these are the contents. This is what's inside this workplace logbook. It talks about expert witnesses, which I'll go through in a moment. It then talks through the workplace logbook candidate guide, which I will talk through. Then it goes on to Unit 102, so apply health and safety and environmental considerations. So then it goes on to Unit 106, organise and oversee the electrical work environment. 108, terminate and connect conductors. Well, that is second fixing. 109, applied design and installation practices and procedures. That's first fixing. The Unit 1010, applied practices and procedures for maintenance. Now, that is only relevant if you're doing the maintenance course, but I will talk through this as well for those people that are doing it. Then you've got the Unit 113, inspect, test and commission electrical systems. And Unit 115, apply fault diagnosis and rectification. Finally, you've got the appendix, which is direct observations. Now, one thing that you need to be aware of with this is that you cannot fill out your logbook if you haven't done the units at college. Okay, so if you're in the first year, for instance, you can't talk about inspection, test and commissioning electrical systems unless you've done that unit at college. Okay, so just bear that in mind. What we try to do, where I work, is that we get the 102 done in the first year. So that's health and safety. So making sure that apprentices are safe on site, that's got to be key. Let me just see if I can zoom this in a titch. How's that? And bring this over. Let's level it up. And up. There we go. That should be enough. Okay. So we try and do the 102 in the first year. The 108 and the 109 will be second year. The 106, which is organising and overseeing electrical work in the environment, in the work environment, that's basically being in charge of other people. That's running jobs, running other apprentices. You probably won't do that until the third year, but it's worth paying attention to it, because obviously if these opportunities do arise, then you can start to talk about them and start to build up to that level of technical ability. So we tend to do the 102 in the first year, 108, 109 in the second year, and then 106, 110, 113, 115 in the third year. Okay? And we aim for our apprentices to have had those units finished by the end of those years. And that makes it more achievable. What you do not want to do is leave this till the last minute, okay? Because the waiting list for the AM2 is 6 months. What you want to do is get this finished before the college ends, okay? Because your chances of finishing this once you leave college get slimmer and slimmer the longer you're away for college. So the ideal situation is that literally the day that you finish college, this is already finished and in place and been marked, and the IQA's been over it, and it's all sealed up with a nice bow, and then your college can enter you into the AM2. And like I said, without this you will not get entered into the AM2, so just be aware of that. Worst, what you don't want to do is end up coming back years later, by which time, things have moved on. Possibly the qualification doesn't even exist anymore, and you've got to do another qualification. So, just be aware of that. Okay, so expert witness. Now, what they've done with this qualification, this portfolio, is that they've made it a bit easier. With the 2357, my understanding of that is that it was very written. You had to describe in immense detail, reflectively, about how you did health and safety, about how you did the first fix, second fix, how you ran the job, how you did the testing, how you did the fault finding. And it was pages and pages of writing. I mean, for me, I can't see a problem with that. I see a lot of lazy apprentices that don't want to put any effort in. All they want to do is turn up to work, do a day's work, go home, and that's fine. I mean, that's a labourer. That's a electrician's mate. The difference between an electrician's mate and somebody that's qualified is somebody who's filled out the portfolio and talks technically about it, in my opinion. And it's okay to be an electrician's mate if that's what you want to be, but if you want to be an electrician, you need to get the portfolio finished and you need to do the AM2. And anyone worth their salt will be able to do that, okay? But what the expert witness does is it enables somebody that has current knowledge of the industry, working practice and techniques, no conflict of interest in the outcome of their evidence, to be able to say, yes, this person has done the bits that I'm ticking to say that they can do. And there's 4 people here that can sign it. I'm sure you can photocopy that and use it as many times as you want, but that person is then saying that they take responsibility for the evidence given, okay? And anything that's got a signature on it is will hold up in court. Okay, it's a legal document, so just be careful what you're getting people to sign. Okay, as we turn over the page, this is now the Workplace Logbook Candidate Guide. So what is supporting evidence? Okay, so it says here, supporting evidence is additional evidence that supports the work carried out. Guidance to supporting evidence requirements can be discussed with your assessor. And then we've got a list of assessment methods here, and then a description of each one. So DO stands for direct observation, PE stands for product evidence, so product assessment, RA is a reflective account, PD professional discussion, WT witness testimony, OQ oral question, WQ written question, JR job record. And what I'll do is, as I come through each section, I'll keep referring back to that and showing you where it needs to be entered in. So what's a direct observation? So a direct observation is where your assessor visits your workplace to see what you were doing on a particular job and completes details of the work that you have been observed doing. He or she will identify whether the work you have carried out is to an acceptable standard. You may be asked a number of oral questions in support of the assessment process, and there will be detailed on the direct observation record. The assessor will also work with you to forward plan future visits and work that you need to produce to progress with your program. Okay, so what that means is that when your assessor comes out to assess you on site, so I think they do that for the 102, they come and assess you on site, you fill out a risk assessment, you talk about stuff that's going on around you and how you're keeping people safe. While we are there, we will also then take into consideration any first fix you're doing, any second fix you're doing, any test and inspection, anything that's relevant to your portfolio can be ticked off on the day. So if you're doing lots of things, that's a lot of ticking that's going on and a lot of signatures going against it. Okay, so a lot of this portfolio can be completed through direct observation. However, the apprentice is responsible for this. The apprentice is for making sure that this stuff is going on the day when the assessor turns up. So what I urge you all to do is talk to your boss. Say to them, these are the elements that I need to fit in. This is what I need evidence for. What jobs are we going to be doing that? When is that going to happen? And booking that into your diary, and then booking that in with the training centre so that the assessor can be there on the day that's arranged. It's no good waiting for the assessor to come to you and phone up and say, oh, when are you free? Because they may not get you on the best day for you. Okay, so just bear that in mind. We've then got, we've then got product evidence assessment. So your assessor, while visiting you on site, checks work that you have previously carried out while he or she was not present. This checking process will include discussion with your expert witness, so that will be your supervisor. Photographic evidence. So this should be taken at the time of the event, dated and authenticated by an expert witness. The photograph should reflect the work being carried out in the job records and the evidence recorded in these. So when we go through, what I always suggest to my apprentices, just take pictures. Take pictures, it's got to be a selfie, you need to be in it, showing you working with a range of materials, so whether that's singles, conduit, trunking, tray, PVC twin cable, flexible cable, SY cable, and then different ways of installing it, okay? And get pictures, because then what you can do is talk reflectively about that picture, and at least then when you come to do a portfolio day at home or over the weekend, you've got something to talk about and it will jog your memory, okay? And then that will help you fill out your portfolio. It's no good trying to sift through 3 years of memories trying to make stuff up, okay? It's just not going to happen, and people will see through it straight away. So make sure you take pictures, and in that picture you need to be wearing PPE appropriate to the task. So for instance, if you're chasing out wolves, you need a dust mask, you need eye protection, you need ear defenders, you need trousers, work trousers, high visibility, high vis, and steel toe cap boots, okay? If you're working indoors, you may not need a hard hat. If you're working outdoors, you will need a hard hat, okay? If you are on a ladder and you're looking up and drilling holes out for downlights, Well, you need to think, what PPE do I need for that? Well, we're going to have dust mask. We're going to have dust falling in my eyes, so that is goggles. I probably won't need an ear defenders because the amount of noise will be quite low, but I will need a high vis perhaps so people can see me. Steel toe caps, it all depends on the situation. I mean, most people wear steel toe caps all the time. What I would say though, guys, is if you're not sure, just wear everything, okay? Because it's better to have it than to not have it and the evidence gets refused. Reflective account. Now those photos are going to help you write reflectively. So as I said, we've got our apprentices filling out diaries as we speak, and then we build that into our lessons. Okay, and then when we're in the classroom, we talk about it from a certain point of view. When we're in the practical room, I can then build on that and we can talk about what they're installing on the day and how they would talk about that. So reflective account, you provide full details of a job and your expert witness provides confirmation on the recording sheets provided in this evidence record that the work was done by you and it was carried out to a commercially acceptable standard. Okay. So with a reflective account, you would say something along the lines of, this is how I dealt with health and safety. These were the risks on site. I carried out a risk assessment and this is how I dealt with the risk assessment. These were the methods of works that we put in place to deal with those hazards. This is how we kept people safe. While we were installing, this is what we did. And because we had dust, this is what we wore. This is how we installed it. This is the equipment that we used. This is how we installed the equipment. And then this is how we terminated those cables. This is how we clipped those cables so they didn't suffer from premature collapse. Then we terminated them, we sleeved them, we did tug testing. You know, all of these things build up a picture that you know what you're talking about, okay? Then how did you prove that this all worked before you just walked away from a job? Because we should not be fitting and forgetting electrical installations. These people that just turn up, bang it in and walk away, that shouldn't be happening. We should be then testing. So you would talk about why you did the tests, the particular test that you did and what you were looking for, whether the results were good or bad. You know, this is the level of detail that I would expect from any apprentice that I was assessing. And then going on into fault finding, well, when we did the testing, we realised the ring was incomplete or something. And, you know, this is how we tested it and this is how we found the fault. And, you know, this is the kind of level that you're going to need in your AM2 when you do fault finding, when you do the installation. This is what they're going to be looking for. Now, a lot of you guys think, oh, you know, I'm good with my hands, that's why I went into this job. Well, now we just need to build you up to an ability where you can then talk about that, sound like you know what you're talking about. Talk the talk, not just walk the walk. So up here we've got professional discussion. So your assessor may wish to engage in a professional discussion which will be recorded. This form of assessment is useful to supplement performance and written evidence to show that you have met the level of competency required. Then you've got witness testimony, so they provide an account of what the candidate does or has done recently in their job role. Oral questions. Your assessor may need to assess some task items through questioning you about the work. Details of oral questions asked and your responses are written in the space provided on the relevant task sheet. This should be related to the evidence produced and for relevant performance units and criteria. Written questions. You may also be asked to provide 1 or 2 word answers as well as answers that may need a few sentences. Then you've got job records. So these are designed to meet and capture evidence of the performance criteria as you are carrying out your tasks on site. It says here, if you make a mistake, you can, please do not use correction fluid in this workplace evidence record. So basically what I would suggest to you is, it says make duplicate sheets as required. So what I would do is the same as what I've done. I've printed this off. I'm going to do rough format. Okay, so I can just jot some things down, change it, add it, build on it. And then when I'm finished, I'll copy that into the real thing. Which again is where I think the digital version will come in handy, because then you can do it rough on paper and then just type it up, and then if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. How do I complete this workplace evidence record? Okay, so each section you will be given a unit brief. This gives you an overview of the unit, what is expected of you, and likely sources of evidence. It is important to pay close attention to this so that you can meet and show you are competent against all the performance criteria. You will notice there are also questions to support you in producing examples of evidence. These questions cover the whole of the unit. Unit checklist. This is completed by the assessor. So this tracks your progress through the performance unit that you are working on. It also identifies and verifies the assessment method used to meet the performance criteria. The performance criteria must be assessed on a minimum of 2 occasions. Now what they're saying there is, and this causes apprentices a lot of confusion, you have to show a minimum of 2 occasions for the whole of this portfolio, okay? So 2 occasions where you've done health and safety, 2 occasions where you've done first fix, second fix, planned and saw a job, inspection, testing, fault finding, as well as ticking the relevant criteria. So for instance, in the first fixing, you need to use a different range of materials: singles, tray, trunking, conduit, twin and earth, flexible cable, mineral insulated, and there's an amount that you need, and I think we'll get onto it, but it's something like 4 out of the 8 listed materials, and you have to tick that. So unless you've got a big job, okay, like a block of flats where you're likely to hit all of that criteria, you're going to need more than 2 jobs. And it doesn't matter, it can be an unlimited amount of jobs, it could be 100 jobs. You just need to fill in the blanks. And you don't have to write about this stuff all the time. What you'll do is the first 2 jobs will probably pick up, let's say, 50, 60, 70% of what you need to achieve. And then each job you do after that is just to fill in the blanks, okay? Just to fill in the criteria. You don't have to do the whole lot for every job that you do. Does that make sense? If anyone's got any questions about this, by the way, just in the messages, ask questions. I'll make sure that I answer them. So used unit checklist completed. Oh no, we did that, sorry. Unit range evidence tracker. So this is completed by the candidate. Identifies how you have met the minimum required content across the performance unit and where the evidence of this can be found. The range must be covered on a minimum of 2 separate occasions, which I've just spoken about. Job records completed by the candidate. Some of the performance units contain a job record that is specifically designed to meet the performance criteria of that particular unit. For example, these may contain risk assessments or tool lists that have to be completed. For you to be successful at completing the performance units within this qualification, you have to complete the job records as guided in this workplace logbook. We recommend all job records are completed alongside any direct observation. Okay? Supplementary evidence feedback. At the end of each unit, there is a section that will give information on what supplementary evidence needs to be provided to meet the performance criteria, and a section for your supervisor or assessor to give feedback on your performance and areas to improve. Okay, just have a drink of water. Okay, so along with this qualification, in fact I'm going to show it here. In this book here, so this is the City and Guilds Book 1, Electrical Installation for the 5357, the 8202 and the 2365, okay, endorsed by City and Guilds and IET. In the back of this book, I just want to bring your attention to this. So it says here, electrical apprentices who successfully complete the City and Guilds 5357 along with the AM2 test and therefore complete their full apprenticeship are now eligible for Eng Tech recognition from the IET through a fast-track approval scheme specifically designed for the current apprenticeship. Now what that means is that when you fill out to this portfolio, not only are you talking technically and showing your technical ability, but you're also behaving ethically. So what I suggest is that you look at the ethical statement of principles, and it will refer to these types of behaviours that you need to address. Okay, so behaviour 1 works reliably and effectively without close supervision. Probably a lot of apprentices manage to achieve that by the end of the first year. Behaviour 2 accepts responsibility for the work of themselves and others. Behaviour 3 accepts, allocates and supervises technical and other tasks. Behaviour 4 uses oral, written and electronic methods for the communication of technical and other information. Behaviour 5 works effectively with colleagues, other trades, clients, suppliers and the public. Behaviour 6 undertakes work in a way that contributes to a sustainable development. Behaviour 7 maintains and enhances competence in own areas, so that's CPD. And behaviour 8 exercises responsibilities in an ethical manner. So while you're also writing this out, what you need to do is you need to describe what you did in a way where you're ticking off these behaviours. So as we go through, I'll show you or talk to you about how you can do that. Okay. Again, I'm not going to do it for you or give you a way of copying, but I will help you build in that language. All right. And I'm hoping that most of you are doing that anyway, because I take this job very seriously. You know, when I'm on site, I'm the electrician, I'm in charge of the electricity. It's my job to keep people safe. It's my job to ensure that the customer gets the level of work that they've paid for. Okay. And I take that seriously. So if somebody gives me something to do, I take ownership of that and I do it to the best of my ability whilst ticking all these behaviours. Okay. So who does what? The candidate, so that's you. You need to complete the following sections: the range evidence tracker, any job records, and the supplementary evidence and feedback. The assessor needs to complete the remaining sections, so that's the checklist and forward planning sign-off sheets. Direct observations, okay, so I've spoken about that. You'll be required to be observed on a minimum of 2 occasions to complete the Unit 102, Health and Safety. Whilst we are there, we will also be ticking off other things that you're doing. So, like I said before, make sure that when you book your assessor to come in and assess you at work, you've got a nice range of things that they can tick off for you at the same time and sign off as work that you have done. Okay? You need to be smart. You need to think this through. Take responsibility for it. Take it serious. Okay. That pretty much finishes the first video. The next one, we're going to start talking about the Unit 102, which is applying health, safety and environmental considerations. And that will be in the second video. And as I said, what I'm going to do is I will start to fill this out myself. And as I do that, I will record it and describe to you, how you can give yourself the best chance of filling that out. And the sort of types of words, the type of language that you need to prove that you are competent. Okay. I hope this has been of some help to you. If you do like this video, then please subscribe, because it helps reinforce the fact that I'm doing the right thing. Okay, so as always, guys, take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.